moving on to chapter 6, here the first thing of note, it's not the first thing covered, but it's the first thing of note, is going to be the box model. Every element that you deal with, whether or not it is a cardinal element, so something that is baked into HTML, so like an H1 and H2 and H3, or if it is a user-defined element, so a class or an ID that you create. All of those create a box, essentially, that you can drag around, conceptually to drag around your page. The box model works as follows. Now, this you can see behind me is on page 184, and it does represent the box model. So your content is the thing that is in the middle. So whether or not that is your H1, H2, H3, it is a hyperlink, it is an image, it is a class or an ID. Moving, it's called Proximo Distal. It's how we do everything that's how we treat everything in our physical bodies. It's how we treat everything mentally. So that's why the box model moves out from there. So proximity first to distant next. So from the most proximate, closest to your content, next comes padding. So the padding is the amount of space that surrounds your content. Next is the border. Use these very, very sparingly. Border goes around the padding that you have. So your border can be a solid line, your border can be a dashed line, your border can be a color. It might not exist. I think this is, good modern design says be real careful with those borders, and I tend to agree. Then the most distant from your content is the margin. That is the space between other pieces of content that you are working with. So if we progress a little further downward, here we will see on page 185 kind of how that box model works when we have it on a web page. So examples of the box model, we can see that right here. This would be our H1 heading for text. So you'll see that you can tell that I have, first of all, I want to just start with the border. You can tell that I have a border there because that's that little black outline that goes around the item itself. However, you can see that there's spacing. There's a little bit of padding. So on top of, for example, the L, the capital B, the capital M, and the other lowercase l in model, you'll see that there is blue on top of that. That is the padding. You will see to the left-hand side of the E in examples, you'll see blue there. That is the padding. You will see that underneath the bottom of the P in example, you'll see that there is blue being pushed down below that. That is the padding there. Then we have, again, the border around that. That is the little black box around our little blue box for examples of the box model. And then we have margin. So if you look at the margin top, that would be the amount of white space that we see on top of our box. If you see the margin, there is a little bit of a margin to the left and the right, and we can tell that because our box does not go all the way to the edges of the page. We also have a little bit of a margin in between our examples of the box model and the paragraph that is below that. So remember, there are always those four pieces. There is your content itself. There is padding. So the padding is how much space you want around your content. Border comes next. That's the line that goes around your element. And then there's margin. That is the stuff in between the element that you are describing and the next elements on the page. We will actually see through all of the rest of the hands-on practice here in Chapter 6. All of them do have border, padding, margins to have to deal with. So we'll see those as we build out our solutions here in Chapter 6.